The rain was a living thing, clawing at my windows like it wanted to break into my Seattle loft. It was October, and the city was drowning in a storm that had been raging for 3 days straight, the kind of relentless downpour that made you question if the sun would ever show up again. Thunder rumbled low, shaking the glass, and the wind howled through the gaps in the old brick building, carrying the scent of wet asphalt and pine from the evergreens beyond the city's edge. I sat at my desk, bathed in the blue glow of dual monitors, my fingers flying across the keyboard as I hunted a ghost in the code. A hacker group had breached one of my clients' systems, an eco-tech startup with dreams of revolutionizing solar energy, and I had less than 48 hours to plug the leak before they pulled their contract. My coffee, black as the night outside, had gone cold hours ago, but I didn't care. The clock on my wall ticked past 10 p.m., and the world outside was a blur of rain and neon. My name's Claire Thompson, and I'm a cybersecurity consultant, the kind of person who lives in the shadows of the internet, keeping secrets safe for companies that want to save the planet. 4 years ago, I took a leap and started my own firm, trading stability for freedom. It was a gamble, but it paid off. My clients, green energy startups, conservation NGOs, trusted me to protect their data from the wolves circling in the digital dark. My loft, high above Seattle's buzzing streets, was my fortress. Minimalist, all clean lines and sharp edges, with encrypted servers humming in one corner and framed certifications lining the walls. No clutter, no distractions. Just me, my tech, and the work that kept me sane. Romance. That was for other people, the ones posting engagement photos and baby announcements on social media while I debugged code at 2 a.m. My parents, David and Susan, an hour away in a sleepy coastal town, never let me forget it. "Claire, you're 32, my mom would say, her voice heavy with worry. Lily had it all figured out by your age. Marriage, a career, a future. Lily. My sister." The name alone was a knife in my chest. Lily died 5 years ago, her car skidding off an icy road in a crash that stole her at 26. She was the golden child, a brilliant environmental scientist with chestnut curls and green eyes that could light up a room. She'd been married, working on her PhD, destined to change the world with her research on sustainable ecosystems. My parents worshipped her, and I did too. She was my best friend, my confidant, the one who could make me laugh until I cried. But after the accident, our family fractured. My parents clung to her memory like a lifeline, and I was left carrying the weight of their expectations, the daughter who could never quite measure up. Every visit home was a reminder, if only you'd settled down, Claire, like Lily did. I buried myself in work to escape the grief, the guilt, the loneliness that crept in when the city went quiet. That night, as the storm battered Seattle, my phone buzzed on the desk, cutting through the hum of my servers. Unknown number. I ignored it, my eyes locked on a line of code that wasn't behaving. The buzz came again, insistent, like a mosquito that wouldn't quit. 7 calls in 10 minutes. I cursed under my breath, assuming it was another spammer or a client panicking about the breach. My focus was shot, and the NGO meeting tomorrow, a digital campaign to fight deforestation, a cause Lily would have loved, was looming. I couldn't afford distractions. But when the phone went silent, only to light up again with a voicemail notification, something cold slithered down my spine. I hesitated, then pressed play. "This is Officer Martinez from the Seattle Police Department. Ms. Claire Thompson, we have an urgent matter to discuss. We have your son in custody. Please contact us immediately at..." The voice droned on, but my ears were ringing, the words collapsing into nonsense. My son? I didn't have a son. I didn't have kids, period. My life was code, coffee, and contracts, not car seats and bedtime stories. My hands trembled as I replayed the message, the officer's tone calm but firm, like she was reciting facts, not upending my entire reality. The number matched the one that had called repeatedly. I stared at my phone, the storm outside roaring louder, as if it knew something I didn't. I dialed the number, my heart pounding like a drum. The line rang twice before a woman answered. "Seattle Police Department, how can I assist you?" "This is Claire Thompson," I said, my voice sharper than I meant. "You left a voicemail about a child." A pause, then, "Miss Thompson, thank you for calling back. I'm Officer Martinez. We have a 3-year-old boy in custody, found wandering alone in a residential area. Your name and number were listed as his emergency contact." I gripped the phone tighter, my knuckles white. "That's impossible. I don't have a child. There's got to be a mistake." Another pause, longer this time. "Miss Thompson, could you come to the station? We need to discuss this in person. The boy, he's asking for you." My breath caught. "Asking for me?" The room spun, the monitor's glow suddenly too bright, the storm too loud. "Where's the station?" I managed, scribbling the address on a sticky note. I grabbed my coat, my keys, and stumbled out into the rain, the city a blur of headlights and wet pavement. The drive to the precinct was a nightmare. My windshield wipers couldn't keep up, and my car hydroplaned twice, nearly spinning out on the slick roads. I kept replaying the officer's words, each one a puzzle piece that didn't fit. Emergency contact. A 3-year-old boy. My name. I hadn't done anything wrong. No traffic tickets, no legal troubles. Was this identity theft, a prank, or something worse? The police station loomed ahead, a squat concrete building lit by harsh neon, its windows glowing like eyes in the storm. I parked crookedly, my hands shaking as I stepped into the rain, the cold biting through my jacket. Inside, the air smelled of coffee and disinfectant, and a middle-aged officer at the desk looked up when I gave my name. "Claire Thompson, hear about the call," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. He nodded and led me down a fluorescent-lit hallway, the tiles echoing under my boots. My pulse raced, each step pulling me deeper into a mystery I didn't understand. "You're Miss Thompson?" A woman in a crisp uniform stepped forward, her badge reading Martino's. Her eyes were kind but guarded, like she'd seen too much to be surprised by anything. "Thank you for coming in. Let's talk." She guided me to a small conference room, the walls plastered with community safety posters. A file sat on the table thick with papers, and my stomach churned as she opened it. "Around 2 p.m. today, we got a call from a resident in Capitol Hill," Martinez began. "A 3-year-old boy was found wandering alone, crying, no adults in sight. He was malnourished with bruises on his arms and legs. We took him to the hospital for a checkup. He's stable, but he hasn't been cared for properly." "That's awful," I said, my voice tight. "But what does this have to do with me?" Martinez slid a small plastic bag across the table. Inside was a silver locket, old and tarnished, engraved with a delicate fern pattern. The boy was holding this. "We found a piece of paper inside with your name, phone number, and address written on it." I stared at the locket, a flicker of recognition tugging at me. It looked like something Lily owned, a gift from our grandmother years ago, but I hadn't seen it in forever. I took the paper, my hands unsteady. My name, my number, my address, all in careful looping handwriting that wasn't mine. "This isn't my writing," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know who did this." Martinez leaned forward, her eyes searching mine. "Miss Thompson, I know this is confusing, but we need you to meet the boy. It might help us figure this out." I nodded, my throat dry. She led me down another hallway to a room labeled visiting room. My heart hammered as she knocked, and a soft voice from inside said, "Come in." Martinez turned to me. "Ready?" I wasn't, but I nodded anyway. The door opened, and there he was, a small boy standing by a table, clutching a worn stuffed bear. He was maybe 3, with chestnut curls that fell into his face and wide green eyes that locked onto mine. His clothes were dirty, his cheeks pale, but his features... God, his features. It was like looking at Lily when she was a kid, her face staring back at me from old family photos. The same curls, the same eyes, the same slightly upturned nose. My knees buckled and I gripped the doorframe. "Miss Thompson?" Martinez's voice was gentle, but it felt far away. "Are you okay?" I couldn't answer. I sank into a chair, my eyes fixed on the boy. "What's your name?" I asked, my voice trembling. He hesitated, then whispered, "Noah." "Noah," I repeated, my heart twisting. "You must have been so scared." He nodded, clutching the locket tighter. "Mommy gave me this. It's important. She's with the stars now." Tears stung my eyes. Lily? My sister's name was on the tip of my tongue, but I couldn't say it. This boy, this child who looked like her, was saying his mother was gone. I turned to Martinez. "I need a DNA test. I need to know if he's my sister's son." "We can arrange that," she said. "It'll take a few days. For now, Noah's in a child protection facility. We'll keep you updated." I looked back at Noah, his eyes so like Lily's it hurt. "Noah, I'll come see you soon, okay? I promise." He smiled, a small, shy curve of his lips, and it was Lily's smile, the one that could light up the darkest days. I left the station in a daze, the rain colder now, the night heavier. As I reached my car, I froze. A note was tucked under my windshield wiper, the ink smudged by the rain but still legible. My blood ran cold. I scanned the parking lot, but the shadows were empty, the storm swallowing any sign of whoever left it. Driving home, my mind was a storm of its own. Noah's face, the locket, the note, the impossible claim that I was his emergency contact, and Lily, could she have had a child? She'd been married, happy, or so I thought, before the crash took her. But a secret like this? It didn't make sense. My phone buzzed again as I pulled into my building's garage. An email from an anonymous sender. The subject line was blank, but the attachment was a photo. Lily, laughing in a lab coat, her arms around a man I didn't recognize. My hands shook as I stared at it, a question forming that I wasn't ready to answer. What had my sister been hiding? Back in my loft, I locked the door, double-checked the bolts, and sat at my desk, the monitors still glowing. The hacker breach was still active, my client's ultimatum ticking down, and now this. A child who might be my nephew, a threat on my car, a photo that hinted at secrets Lily took to her grave. I opened my laptop, my fingers hovering over the keys. Somewhere in the code, in the data, in the shadows of my sister's past, there were answers, and I was going to find them no matter what it cost. The storm raged on outside, but it was nothing compared to the one brewing inside me. Noah's face haunted me, those green eyes a mirror of Lily's, and the locket burned in my memory. Whoever left that note didn't want me to dig, but they didn't know me. I was Claire Thompson, the woman who cracked codes and chased ghosts, and I wasn't stopping until I knew the truth. The rain hadn't let up since I left the police station, and Seattle felt like it was sinking under the weight of the storm. My loft was dark when I got back, the neon glow from the street below casting jagged shadows across the hardwood. My hands were still shaking from the note on my windshield. "Stop digging, or you're next." And Noah's face, those green eyes so like Lily's, burned in my mind. I locked the door, slid the deadbolt, and checked it twice, my heart pounding like it was trying to break free. The locket, the photo, the cryptic email. They were pieces of a puzzle I didn't understand, but the threat was clear. Someone didn't want me to solve it. I powered up my laptop, the hum of my servers a familiar anchor, and dove into the digital deep end. If answers were out there, I'd find them, no matter who was watching. My first move was the email. The anonymous sender had attached a photo of Lily, her lab coat crisp, her smile bright, her arms around a man whose face was half hidden in shadow. The timestamp was 6 years old, a year before her accident. I ran a reverse image search, but it came up empty. No matches, no metadata. Just a ghost in my inbox. I saved the file to an encrypted drive and moved to my client's breach. The hacker group, calling themselves Eclipse, had leaked sensitive blueprints from Soltech, my Ecotech client. Their ultimatum hung over me like a guillotine: fix this in 48 hours, or they'd pull their $2 million 0 cents contract. My fingers flew across the keyboard, tracing the breach to a phishing attack buried in a fake vendor email. It was sloppy work for a group bold enough to dox me online, posting my address and phone number to a dark web forum. The exposure had already sparked a local news story: Seattle cybersecurity expert linked to abandoned child. And my phone buzzed with notifications from curious strangers and opportunistic reporters. Had silenced it, my focus split between code and the image of Noah clutching that fern-engraved locket. Around 1 a.m., my servers flickered. A power surge, or so I thought. Then the lights in my loft went out, plunging me into darkness. The storm roared outside, thunder shaking the walls, but another sound cut through. A faint creak from the hallway. My pulse spiked. I grabbed the tactical flashlight from my desk drawer, its beams slicing through the shadows. The loft was silent, but the air felt wrong, heavy with intent. I crept toward the door, my bare feet cold on the floor, and found it ajar. I'd locked it. I knew I had. My breath hitched as I scanned the room, the flashlight catching glints of metal. My servers, my monitors, all untouched. But on the coffee table, where I'd left a framed photo of Lily and me at her graduation, there was nothing but an empty space. The photo was gone. My stomach dropped, and I backed away, the flashlight trembling in my grip. Someone had been here, in my home while I was at the station. The note on my car wasn't a warning, it was a promise. I called the police, my voice low as I reported the break-in. Officer Martinez promised to send a patrol, but the storm had stretched their resources thin. "Stay safe, Miss Thompson," she said. "We'll check on you in the morning." I hung up, my eyes darting to the windows, the rain smearing the glass like tears. I barricaded the door with a chair and spent the night rebuilding my digital defenses, encrypting every file, every trace of my work. By dawn, the storm had softened to a drizzle, but my nerves were raw. I found an old laptop in a storage box, one Lily had used when we shared an apartment in college. It was a long shot, but I powered it up, the screen flickering to life. A single file caught my eye: Lily's secret, encrypted with a password I didn't know. My heart raced as I tried her birthday, our old address, her favorite book. Nothing worked. I slammed the laptop shut, frustration boiling over. What were you hiding, Lily? I drove to the child protection facility that morning, the city gray and heavy with mist. Noah was in a small playroom, stacking blocks with a social worker. His curls bounced as he looked up, his green eyes lighting up when he saw me. "Aunt Claire!" he called, running to me, his little arms wrapping around my legs. The name hit me like a wave. He'd called me that without prompting. Like he knew me, I knelt, hugging him back, his warmth grounding me against the chaos of the night. "Hey, Noah," I whispered, my voice thick. "You okay?" He nodded, holding up the locket. "Mommy said you'd come." I swallowed hard, the fern engraving glinting in the fluorescent light. I didn't know how to tell him I wasn't sure what his mommy wanted, or why she'd tied me to him with a piece of paper and a promise. The social worker, a kind-eyed woman named Rachel, pulled me aside. "Noah's been asking for you," she said. "He's stable, but the bruises, they're consistent with prolonged neglect. The adoptive parents, Tom and Laura Hayes, are in custody. We're investigating, but it's messy." I nodded, my mind flashing to the note, the break-in. "Can I take him out for a bit?" I asked. Rachel hesitated, then agreed, handing me a temporary visitor pass. I took Noah to a nearby park, the drizzle light enough to ignore. He ran to the swings, laughing as I pushed him, his joy a stark contrast to the weight on my chest. But as we played, I noticed a man across the street, his hood up, watching us. My skin prickled. I grabbed Noah's hand, my eyes locked on the figure, but when a bus passed, he was gone. I hurried Noah back to the facility, my heart pounding. Someone was following me, and they knew where to find us. Back at my loft, I called my parents. Mom answered, her voice warm but tinged with worry. "Claire, what's wrong? You sound shaken." I took a deep breath and told them about Noah, the locket, the police. There was a long silence. Then Mom's voice broke. "Lily had a child. Why didn't she tell us?" Dad got on the line, his tone gruff. "We're coming to Seattle tomorrow. We need to see him." I agreed, but as I hung up, my phone buzzed with another voicemail. The voice was female, low, unfamiliar. "Claire, you don't know the truth about Lily's death. Meet me at Pike Place Market tomorrow, midnight. Come alone." My blood ran cold. I played it again, memorizing the cadence, but there was no caller ID, no trace. I didn't sleep that night, my mind torn between Noah's smile, the stolen photo, and the voice promising answers about my sister. The next day, I threw myself into work trying to outrun the fear. The Soltec breach was worse than I thought. Eclipse had planted a backdoor in their server, siphoning data for weeks. I traced their activity to a VPN in Eastern Europe, but every time I closed one hole, another opened. My client's CEO, a no-nonsense woman named Priya, called at noon. "Claire, we're getting heat from investors. Fix this by tomorrow, or we're done." The pressure was crushing, but I couldn't stop. I met my parents at the facility, watching as they met Noah. Mom cried, hugging him like he was Lily reborn, while Dad's eyes softened, a rare crack in his stoic shell. "He looks just like her," Mom whispered, and I nodded, my throat tight. But as we left, a reporter from a local news station ambushed us, shoving a microphone in my face. "Miss Thompson, is it true you're involved in a child neglect case? Are you the boy's mother?" I froze, the camera's red light glaring like an accusation. Dad pushed the reporter back, but the damage was done. The story was spreading, and my name was at its center. That night, I went to Pike Place Market, the cobblestone streets slick with rain. The market was deserted, the stalls shuttered, the air thick with the smell of fish and salt. I waited by the bronze pig statue, my hoodie pulled low, my nerves on edge. At midnight, a woman approached, her face half hidden by a scarf. "Claire," she said, her voice matching the voicemail. "I worked with Lily. Her accident wasn't an accident." My heart stopped. "What do you mean?" I demanded, but before she could answer, headlights flashed, and a black SUV screeched to a stop. The woman bolted, disappearing into the alleys, and I ducked behind a stall, my pulse racing as two men in dark coats got out, scanning the market. I held my breath, slipping away through the shadows, my mind reeling. Lily's death? A murder? And Noah, was he part of this? I got home to find my loft ransacked, bookshelves toppled, monitors smashed, and the photo of Lily and me already stolen, replaced with a single Polaroid, Noah alone, holding the locket. On the back, in the same handwriting as the windshield note, "You can't protect him." I called Martinez, my voice shaking as I reported the break-in. She arrived with a forensic team, but they found no prints, no evidence, just chaos. "Claire, you're in danger," she said. We're moving Noah to a secure facility until the DNA test comes back. I nodded, but the Polaroid burned in my pocket. I couldn't wait for answers. I needed them now. The DNA results came 3 days later, and Martinez's call hit like a thunderclap. "Noah's your nephew, Claire. Lily was his mother." I sat down hard, the world tilting. Lily had a son, and she'd never told me. The adoption records listed her as the birth mother, me as the emergency contact, and Dr. Michael Evans, her PhD advisor, as the father. Evans, a married climate scientist with a pristine reputation, was the key to this mess. I drove to the University of Washington, the campus cloaked in mist, and found his office in a sleek building overlooking Puget Sound. Evans was older than I expected, his face lined with guilt, his eyes hollow. "I loved her," he said, his voice breaking, "but I was married. Lily chose adoption to protect her future and yours. She knew you were struggling with infertility." I clenched my fists, anger and grief colliding. "Why my name? Why drag me into this?" He shook his head. "Lily said you were the only one she trusted." I left his office, my mind a storm of questions. Lily's journal, found in a box of her old things, was my next clue. Its pages were filled with her fears, Evan's influence, pressure from his colleagues, a vague reference to danger in the lab. I spent hours decoding her words, but the answers were incomplete. Meanwhile, the Hayes lawyer, representing Noah's adoptive parents, accused me of fabricating his abuse to steal custody, threatening a lawsuit that could bankrupt me. My savings were already draining from legal fees and the cost of rebuilding my security systems after the breach. Eclipse struck again, leaking my personal emails to the press, painting me as a reckless guardian unfit for Noah. The media frenzy grew, with headlines screaming, "Cybersecurity star's dark secret." I was drowning, but Noah's face kept me fighting. I visited Noah daily, his trust in me growing with every hug, every story I read him. "Aunt Claire, will you stay?" he asked one evening, his voice small. I promised I would, but the Polaroid, the note, the SUV at the market, they were closing in. I hired a private investigator, a grizzled ex-cop named Dan, to trace the threats. He found a lead. The SUV was registered to a shell company tied to Evans' research lab. Was Evans behind this, or someone higher up? I confronted him again, but he swore he'd left the university, his life in ruins. "Check the lab's funding," he said. "Lily found something she wasn't supposed to." That night, I hacked into the university's financial records, my skills pushed to the limit. What I found chilled me. Millions in grants from a shadowy corporation funneled through Evans's lab with Lily's name on redacted documents. My car's brakes failed the next morning, the mechanic confirming sabotage, a cut line deliberate and clean. I was shaking as I drove Noah to a safe house Martinez arranged, his small hand in mine. The investigator called with another bombshell. The woman from the market was a former lab assistant, now missing. Her last message to Dan: Lily's crash was a hit. They wanted her data. The pieces fell together in a rush, and I broke. Lily had uncovered something dangerous. Corporate secrets, maybe corruption tied to her environmental research. She'd hidden Noah to protect him, but they'd found him anyway. And now they were coming for me. I held Noah that night, his head on my shoulder, and made a vow. I'd keep him safe, no matter the cost. My parents arrived, their faces etched with grief and love as they embraced their grandson. "We'll fight for him," Mom said, tears streaming. "For Lily." 6 months later, Noah and I moved to a small house in a Seattle suburb, a cedar tree blooming in the yard. The threats had stopped. Dan's investigation led to arrests, a corporate conspiracy exposed, tied to illegal dumping cover-ups Lily had stumbled on. Noah thrived, his laughter filling the house, his cheeks rosy, his curls shining in the sun. A photo of Lily hung in the living room, and every morning Noah waved to it, saying, "Good morning, Mommy in the sky." My work evolved. My pitch is now infused with a passion for family, for legacy. My parents found joy in Noah, taking him to the aquarium, their love a bridge over our grief. As I watched him play, the stars above bright, I whispered, "Thank you, Lily." She'd given me Noah, a gift of love and purpose, and I'd carry it forever.